it because it's always the same thing. So I didn't really feel the need to get into any of it because I just really didn't care. But what Ryan had to say in his video responding back to what Gypsy had to say, I'll play both of them for you so you can see what Gypsy said and then what Ryan said in response to it. But what he said actually really kind of caught my attention because of what he does in the video. And we'll talk about it in a minute, but I'll show you the videos first and then I'll give you my thoughts on why I feel this is important.
I'm enjoying watching the haters live and just reading all the comments and just they're so boring.
Yeah, super.
But you're sitting here watching.
Hey, listen, whatever.
And I just want to say one thing, and only he knows what this will mean. 10 years younger with a bigger D.
Hey guys, it's me, Ryan, and welcome to another episode of Ryan Reacts. This is episode 4. Now, recently, my ex-wife did a live with Yahoo, Kenny Boy, and said a comment about me, or she said 10 years younger with a bigger. Well, I appreciate that, Gypsy. That's right. I am. That's right. Oh, wait. Y'all thought she was talking about Kenny? No, she's talking about me, because that's my line. I said that to her about her previous boyfriend, and it was about me. So when she's sitting there cutting me down in front of Kenny Boy, and actually she's sitting there telling the world how unforgettable I am. See, Kenny Boy thought she was cutting me down, but really she was pumping me up and letting me know how unforgettable I am. So I appreciate that. And look, I'm sitting with a headboard. Look, there's nothing wrong with this headboard. Gyps, does it remind you of anything? Because my headboard's still intact. Do you remember this? Oh, wait. Let me change it for you. Let's see. Now, do you remember the headboard? Look. This reminds you of anything, sweetie? Yeah, 10 years younger with a big... You're absolutely right, I am. Appreciate it. I knew you couldn't forget about me. Later. If she wanted to make that statement factual, what she should have said was 5 years younger with less hair, with no prospects. And then talking to me, 5 years older with way more hair on his head, a college degree, and way more things going for him in this world. So that's what she should have said. Team Ryan.
You know, sometimes when you're on set all day.
The first time I've actually mentioned this because I know in a video a long time ago, I brought up during one of the scenes in the Lifetime series, after Gypsy gave birth to her baby, she's laying in there and she's all depressed or whatever, and she has this dark red light going. And I remember saying, like, do you not think that's weird? The whole room is red. You would think that that would trigger her to remember the trauma and the horrible things that she allegedly had to go through while she was in this room. She wasn't allowed to sleep in her own bedroom. However, yet still to this day, she's making the lighting to match the room identical to the one that her mother had. And not only that, not just for sleeping, but apparently for, activity between her and Ryan. I'm sure she does the same thing with Ken. I don't know if he thought... I would imagine she does the same thing with Ken, because clearly she had bought another red light for the baby. So I find it a little bit weird somebody that experienced so much trauma is going to revert to something that is so similar to where something so horrific happened. Would that not be weird? You know, most people, whenever they go through a traumatic situation or whatever, they try to avoid every single thing that could potentially trigger any kind of memory or recollection, whether that be like a song, an area, a shop, locations, things like that, a smell, anything and everything to avoid having to remember something that is so triggering to them, especially when heavy trauma is involved. They don't want to remember that, but instead she finds comfort in this. Not only just for sleeping, but for adult activities. And a lot of if you're a longtime viewer, you also know that for a long time I've had this theory that on the night of the murder, Gypsy and Nicholas were not actually in Gypsy's bedroom when they were doing their own deed. As much as Gypsy wanted to kind of play it like she didn't want to do it and all of this and that and the other, that Nick forced her to do it because she was wearing the nightgown and there was a nightgown right by the edge of the bed. And I've seen some people kind of go back and forth and say, no, that wasn't Gypsy's nightgown because Gypsy's nightgown was in the bathroom, but that's 100% not true because in the crime scene photos, there's not a nightgown anywhere to be found. And in fact, the only nightgown that Gypsy herself describes wearing was right here on the side of the bed where Dee Dee's body actually was. So I find it a little bit odd that this is maybe something that she is going back to. And this isn't the only thing that I've noticed as well. I also pointed out how Ryan actually had the painting that was hanging in their house, in Dee Dee and Gypsy's house, in his apartment. I pointed that out a long time ago when I first noticed it, and then eventually he kind of brought it up, talking about the painting.
Hey guys, it's me, Ryan, again. Me, Ryan, again. And for those who don't know, y'all, I married somebody infamous, but you know, it's what it is. Anyway, story time with Ryan. Let's tell the story. All right. So after me and Gypsy got married, Gypsy wanted her stuff over at my place, at our place. So her dad and stepmom, who, greedy woman, brings over a bunch of stuff. Well, some of the stuff she brought over was her paintings. All right. Boom. There's that painting. All right. That painting was at her house in Missouri, and Christy and her dad dropped that off, and me and Gypsy hung it right there. Now we got the Bret Hart sitting there, and I think Bret looks better. Back to this picture, though. But I was cleaning out a closet, and bam, there's this picture. It's massive. It's huge. You know, massive and huge. That's what she said. But Christy didn't get her little greedy little hands on it like she wanted to, you know, like she sold every picture she took to TMZ and everything like that. So I had to get their photos. But they didn't get this painting. Gypsy told me that it's cursed. Gypsy believes this painting's cursed. It was hanging in her mom's